done again. Sorry.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting, Tuesday, November the 25th, 2025 at 9 a.m. in Council Chambers. We need an approval of the agenda and there are no late items. Thank you. Councillor King, Councillor Poderica, all in favor. And the adoption of some minutes, Committee of the Whole minutes of October the 28th. We have that, please. Thank you. Councillor Chung, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you. So first off, a staff report, the Child Care Committee Terms of Reference. And I will turn this over to Director Davis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before you is a report related to the Child Care Action Plan Committee. As part of this, administration is bringing forward this information for Council's consideration, and it has been identified as part of Council's strategic priority. Just to give you a little bit of action on our background on the Child Care Action Plan. This was completed in 2024. Council adopted it at that time. And the plan identified a number of items related to short-term, medium-term, and long-term timelines. A main target for the short-term period was to develop a cross-sectoral committee to monitor the Child Care Action Plan. That's what's before council today. So the town of Osoyoos staff would be part of this. Maybe planning. I put that in there because it was in the report and I really think it's important. And community services, interior health, school district number 53, who was also on our community services advisory committee, post-secondary and secondary schools, Osoyoos Indian Band, childcare providers, and the One Sky Childcare Resource and Referral. The Child Care Action Plan could include a member of council if it was a committee of council, and that's how we would set it up, I do believe. Obviously, it would be advisory in nature. It would monitor and report to council on a regular basis, depending on what's set up in the terms of reference. And the committee to lead the town's application for future provincial funding and assisting local providers for childcare initiatives. One of the reasons this was put in there and part of the whole study was due to the funding that we had available a couple of years ago, which we did take the lead on and which we did acquire. So some of the options for discussion, to utilize the recommendations from the Child Care Action Plan and develop a terms of reference for an advisory committee to monitor the action plan targets. Some of the stuff or for discussion is how often should the committee meet? Depending on how council wants to move forward. Some other communities, Richmond has in a very similar committee. They meet 4 to 6 times a year or more often if needed. Should the committee lead provincial grant initiatives for the town and assist daycare providers with grant opportunities? More so for assisting providers with grant opportunities, which is mostly something we would be part of anyway, but still to have it identified in the terms of reference would be important. And should other agencies be included? Other agencies, social, anything related to provincial, local government that would be of assistance to providing daycare opportunities? Or should the committee be smaller? Do we want a smaller committee to be more in tune with what we want to accomplish, or do we want to actually have a larger committee and bring larger items forward? So the recommendation with all our lovely little tidbits and color, that the committee provide administration with input and direction on the terms of reference for the Child Care Action Plan Committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davis. This is quite a comprehensive report. One of the things I was looking at is the number of people and the groups that have been contacted already for input. And I'm wondering if Okanagan College was included in that. Do you know whether it was or not?
I'm not sure, tell you the truth.
And the reason I mention it is that I recently had a meeting with the president of the Okanagan College, Dr. Neil Facina, and he's very interested in helping not only students and young people go to college and take courses, but also people that could be that could already have a job, have a family, and are looking to upgrade and looking to increase their education. And sometimes that's more difficult when you're already working and you're in a small town. So his idea is to really concentrate on finding ways to help people take college credits online at their when it's feasible for them. So I just think he didn't see specifically that mention in here, and I think he would be a very good person to contact for certainly for the parents that might need help
Oh, well,
upgrading or
definitely.
people. Yeah, sure.
Maybe your worship, I mean,
Yes.
one of the things that the committee can do, and I'm not saying that's not a good idea or bad idea, but the committee does have the ability to bring in expertise when it
Mm.
so requires it. So if depending, I think, on the committee's overall scope and what are going to be a lot of the issues, if staffing is, let's say, one of many,
Mhm.
maybe that's not the best use of that individual's time, and maybe it's inviting that individual to the meetings when stuff like that is there. So I'm not saying yes or no, I'm just saying that's one of the additional options the committee has, is to bring in expertise to complement its decision making.
Totally agree. And I didn't mean for them to be on the committee. I meant that that should be included as somebody that would be, I think, offer a good service to quite a few of the issues. Go ahead, Councillor
I
King.
support the other. I think we should have a rep from community college. I don't think he would come in personally. He'd send a rep. And I believe they have a program around daycare already, which would be beneficial to this committee.
Councillor Chung? Oh, Councillor Bennett first and then everybody else. is
Thank you, Madam
louder
Mayor.
Than you. You need to speak up.
Well, I'm right here.
Go ahead.
I just, when I was on the school board committee, I was always confused because we had the daycare opportunity here and they were trying to build a daycare. And we didn't seem to have the school districts backing on the property of trying to do something. And then also when I was at the meetings, they were doing daycares within the school system, which to me was competing against this daycare. So I don't know how you get, Gerald, maybe you know, but I don't know who decides which daycare should go where. Do we put one in the school here? Or do you go and rebuild this one that's here, that's private? And then do they come and kind of compete by putting it within the schools? So a committee, maybe that's a way to get around that, where you're working together, so.
Yeah, so some of the items that they did identify, obviously, the town of Vesuvius is considered a desert. But not just a desert physically, but a childcare desert, because we don't have enough childcare openings, opportunities for parents. Some of the daycare owners that are separate from this now would be a similar entity. So they would work together to make sure that not just, that they're a thriving business or anything to that extent, but to make sure that they're going to meet the needs of the community in that respect. I believe the school district now, they run some programs that are free. I can't remember the actual name of it on the top of my tongue right now, but it's not really a daycare per se, especially here anyway. They might have some in other schools in the district 53 in other communities, but not here. And I think right now there is a lot of I would say concerned parents because they don't have enough. So I don't think they would be competing. I think they would be just trying to keep up to the demand, to be honest.
I think that they offer a before school and an after school program because on page 26 that shows that 3 to 5-year-olds they're in the Suis Elementary Seamless day there's 40, And it's the 0 to 3 that seems to have the most need. Anyway. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Chong.
Yeah, I think a little bit of clarity on the scope of this committee would be nice. Like as indicated on page 53 of the report, there's the evaluation plan for 2026, and it's a nice kind of chart-ish diagram with outcomes, targets, and key evaluation activities. Now, it's the goal of this committee to hit all 6 of those targets, like the 26 total infant toddler spaces, 6 total Aboriginal focus spaces, etc. And is the goal of this committee to have clear lines of communication to see, okay, where does the school district sit, where do nonprofit childcare sit, and then where do for-profit childcare kind of where all the spaces are, and to see where all the puzzle pieces fit in the overall picture. To kind of follow up on Councillor Bennett's points, there's always going to be space for private, public, and other types of childcare or schooling, right? And it's not so much competition; it's different options. Because my understanding is, with school district, they're mandated to follow a certain curriculum, but then there's other schools that can expand that curriculum, where there's more like Montessori or other types of learning, and that can also be applied towards childcare and daycare as well. And the other point I do want to make is with the upcoming census data, I have a sneaking suspicion that the modeling that was used to develop this plan may be understated. But I mean, that could be observer bias as a young family. You buy a red Civic, all you see is red Civics on the road. So, but a little bit of clarity on the purpose, the scope would be nice, because then we can, once we have the parameters, we can kind of fill in the blanks.
Thank you, Councillor Chong. I can tell you, just from going through the process of the actual plan itself and meeting and discussing some of the issues and looking through the report, just being a resource to bring everybody together would be first and foremost. There are opportunities abound, either from provincial funding, excuse me, even local funding through our own grants, that we could actually provide some assistance. But it's also the fact that if we're even going to identify a motivation for people that are working in daycare, or an opportunity to get some funding to do that locally, that we share that information, and maybe other communities in our area would offer something similar, or help that, or motivate more people to recruit them into that type of employment. But I do see this as more of as a resource. I don't see us hitting specific targets, but I think what could happen is, if we have those resources around the table, and we know, and we're having that opportunity to share information, and I think that will evolve. So it could be, in my opinion, a committee that could meet possibly quarterly, or maybe less, depending, but call a meeting when needed. But I think having those resources and those different entities around the table would make a difference and help us zero in on different things. And maybe for the very opposite reason, not for competition, but to work together. So if we have grant opportunities, we wouldn't want to have 3 or 4 different agencies vying for the same funding, where we could do it either as a group even, and share those resources, or just take who gets the better bang for its buck around that resource table type of thing.
So I think that what you were trying to remember was Head Start? Was that
Yes.
the program
Yeah,
at the
that's
school?
correct. Yeah.
And there was a room right inside that had that, and in the afternoon, it was used for one-to-one reading. Well, I was a one-to-one reader, but guess what? There is no room now, so I don't do one-to-one reading, and it isn't offered because there isn't room. I'm not sure whether Head Start is still on, but
Strong start.
Strong
Yeah,
Start,
yeah.
sorry, Strong
And
Start,
it's
you're right.
free, yeah. it's free service.
And so that's certainly one of the programs that looks at, but I think you have to come with your parents, I
Yes,
think.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Any,
Thank you,
Counselor
Madam Mayor.
King,
I think the biggest issue we've heard for the last 3 or 4 years is staffing. Like, there's a lot of capacity still at the nonprofit here in town, the childcare center, but they can't find staffing to help increase the children they could support. And the other thing, that $10 daycare is just about impossible to fill out the application to qualify.
do you know anything about that, Mr. Davis, about the?
No, I do
no.
not, sorry.
Okay. So are you suggesting that it might be community services that would start the committee and try and round up some of the people? Was that what you were offering to do, or? Yeah,
Yes.
okay, I
So,
wasn't sure.
I do believe, I brought this copy from the city of Richmond, and they have a 4-page document that just goes through, and it's a childcare development advisory committee. They have a clear mandate, their role, composition. Obviously, they got 12 members of council. 12 members appointed by council, because you don't have 12 council. That'd be a pretty strong council meeting, yeah. And I think they do meet quarterly. So those are the things I do believe. And we as a municipality, not yet. We don't actually run a daycare per se. We do own a facility that's operated, but it's done by another, nonprofit group. But I think having that better relationship with the daycare, actually, I think would be a really good thing.
So there used to be a daycare in the Sonora Center. It's no longer there?
It was a play school. It
Oh,
was a
so that-
school half a day.
Okay.
Yeah, it was different. It wasn't a licensed play,
Okay, so
but
a
it
play
was
school.
it was an opportunity for parents to bring the young
Yes,
like
I
preschool.
remember that.
But it was a 3-hour, like 8:30 to 11:30,
Okay.
2 or 3 days a week.
And it no longer,
No, that's
no.
correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead, Counselor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm 100% behind this, Gerald. Whatever we can do to help make this work, I'm 100% for your efforts. So whatever you need.
Is this a good time to talk budget? Thank you.
I'm not sure if we do need a budget for it, then we'd need to add it to, but I'm thinking just to get sort of things started might help or come up with the terms of reference for. Go ahead, Counselor John.
Thank you. Speaking of budget, what would, I guess this is kind of cart before the horse. But approximately what do you believe the staffing resources required for this committee would entail? Do we have the capacity?
Counselor Chung, this would be a committee that we would utilize similar to other committees that we have within our department. And yes, we would be able to do that. Probably myself or 1 or 2 other staff members. Most times, if we can, we would meet during the day, and then we're talking absolutely no funding whatsoever. So it wouldn't be that big of a deal. And if there were meetings, in the wee hours of the evening, then, there would be just a little bit of extra funding, but it wouldn't be anything that we would identify or have as an increase operationally or nothing like that. So.
Maybe just to complement
Yes.
that. So, I mean, one of the things that we do within the town is we take on a lot of things and done at the side of the desk. And so unfortunately, on some of these projects, the effort required to really make them bear fruit just isn't there because the capacity isn't there. I think this provides an opportunity to kickstart a need within the community. And depending on what the terms of reference are and, how any volunteers we have to take on various things, and its progress, there may be additional need for additional resources in the future. So I just want to put a little asterisk beside taking on more work, because we always want to do more, but reality is there's very limited time, and how much you invest in is a lot of times what you get out. But on the positive side, again, we have a ton of great volunteers out there, and maybe some of those people around the table might do some of that legwork for us. And, depending on what things the committee talks about, it'll provide at least some opportunity for discussion in 2027. So I think we're always looking for additional funding and additional resources to do things. So if council wants to support and give a big kickstart at the beginning, can do that. But also there's a lot of other budget pressures that council is debating, and so I'm just adding some of those additional cautionary comments.
So it definitely was identified as a council strategic priority. So I do think that we need to probably get started on it because it's something that we've agreed that we want for sure. Councillor King, then
Yeah, thank you,
Councillor
ma'am.
Sean.
I guess what the term of reference would be the first start, but actually half the people that you list here are actually on community service committee already. So would it be easier to tweak that term of reference or come up with a brand new one? Because you're gonna ask half the people to come to two different meetings, and maybe it could be added on to community.
The preference would be to create a whole different terms of reference. And I do believe, what could happen from here, and I really appreciate, having that opportunity to talk about, resources, funding, all that stuff, because, at the end of the day, we don't want to come to work and not be able to be functional, or not be able to be productive. And I think that's important, and it's good to have that, frank discussion. For right now, I do believe, if we create a terms of reference, or if I bring a terms of reference back for adoption, at a future meeting, and that committee gets started, there will definitely be some funding resources needed. Whether it be, identifying some funding for, potential students to attend school, or that motivation to be part of that, or bringing in, a post-secondary institution to say, we have some funding and we'd like to, put it through the college, or whatever the case may be. But that's where that discussion happens, at that committee level. And then at the end of the day, and this might be for next year, 2 years, where some of those funding opportunities, would be discussed at budget.
Thank you. Councillor Chung.
Thank you. I would like to see this committee scope be fairly narrow, and specific, because I find with childcare, it becomes a fairly deep rabbit hole, right? It's okay, so we need more childcare spaces. How do we attract staff? Okay, well, that's housing. Well, now these staff need doctors. Okay, well, we need interior health in. Okay, now the spouses need employment, so we need to bring more industry in. And then it becomes the same kind of algorithm as physician recruitment, and then it becomes basically paralysis by analysis. Like I would like to see this committee again, like look at those targets on page 53, see where we're deficient, and essentially provide recommendations as to how we can fill those targets. With that said, to keep the committee again more mandate driven, I don't think interior health should be a regular presence. Um, and the same thing with post-secondary and secondary schools. Like those seem like if the committee would like to bring in interior health for a discussion, that could be like one-offs. Or providing a recommendation to council to add, let's say, the overall housing needs. Well, we can now tack on, well, the childcare committee also recommends that housing be, um, mandated for ECEs or something like that. Personally, I'd rather see those spots, so interior health and post-secondary and secondary schools, be replaced with members of the community. where like, parents who have their own concerns as well. Because there's going to be specific concerns from boots on the ground that may not be included in the report. And those voices are important to be heard as well. But I mean, OIB, childcare providers, One Sky, Town of Suyas, school district, those are to me no-brainers. But if we can narrow the scope to be like scalpel-like specific, then it separates it from the community services committee, and that way it's just more defined lines. And I think quarterly meetings would be fantastic. And then once we have the terms of reference narrowed down, and we start to see what, we have like a blob of clay and we start to mold it into a shape, then we can look at maybe a budget amendment for some funding, because right now it's a shot in the dark. We don't know what we need. Yeah.
Counselor Chung, can I ask you, my page 53 must be different than yours. Can you tell me what the heading is on your? Okay, well, I don't.
No, it's 53 on the report itself.
Is
So
it 6.2 or 6.3 or?
uh,
No.
so in the report, there's page numbers on the bottom,
Yeah,
and if you go to
I've got 53 out of 67, and this is what it. And so it's 6.3 short-term space creation target.
the heading would be Appendix A evaluation plan.
Oh, alrighty, that's back here. I got it. So mine is 60 and 61. So thanks. Sorry, I wasn't quite sure. I wasn't on the right page. So, okay. So is there anyone else who would like to add some comments to this first? And then we need to look at, there is an executive summary at the beginning of it. I'm not sure when, well, this was done in January,
think.
2024. And on the page that I had, it says number 6 on actions said, consider revisiting the recent South Okanagan Aquatics Facility feasibility study. And with a new perspective to providing childcare spaces. I'm not sure we have that high on our list at this point because we don't have the 18 million needed. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam. I think the real is come back with a term of reference, and as the comments around the table, how to narrow it down to some respect, and then bring it back, and then we can fine tune it or decide to move forward.
Does that make sense?
Yes. I do have a comment though, and
Sure.
I do love how we want to be specific, but probably I want to say a year ago we had talked about homelessness, creating shelter, and we decided, and I can't remember if this was administration, myself, or some other committee, to have a community meeting and meet with some of the providers that offer some services to people in need. And I got to tell you, it was enlightening because I didn't know some of the stuff that some groups did, whether they provided an overnight shelter in Oliver, they got referrals from Asuyus, or they provided free food or luncheons, the program through Desert Sun, and a few of our religious organizations, and it was amazing. And we did have a few follow-up discussions and talks, and sort of we didn't solve anything, but we did understand the struggles that all these people were having, not just as a social problem, but like what they're trying to do. And, it all came down to funding and facilities and all this stuff, but it was interesting. So just having the right people at the table makes a difference.
I totally agree. And I think I said I was at the AGM for Desert Sun. And I thought, well, I'll just stop in for a few minutes, but I stayed for an hour because every one of the groups that provide specific parts of their program spoke, and it took an hour. And I was absolutely amazed. I knew a couple of the things, the bus and taking people to appointments and having the cooking classes. They're are, I think, 9 of them, 9 different programs that are run by there. So I think that that would be a good place to have a look at as well, Desert Sun, because they deal with, a lot of single families and single parent families and young families, and they have a safe house that's part of that. So there's a ton of people that probably would be quite interested. I agree. Go ahead.
No, there's definitely value with having as many groups integrated as possible. Would it be better served, for example, if our first meeting is to determine what, our mandates are, et cetera, and then also in that meeting we create a list of who should come to the committee to present um, and gain more information, kind of a Q&A. Um, and then potentially, have a town hall charrette for local parents to also, provide input, right? And that way, I truly believe there's no such thing as a brand new idea nowadays. It's really just copy and paste, but we do need to cast a wide net to get as many of those ideas as possible. Because I'm just thinking in terms of efficiency's sake, would that be a better way of kind of funneling knowledge? And then that way the committee kind of filters and digests that knowledge to create recommendations.
Yeah, I do believe so. We've done something similar with the accessibility committee. We did have a public open forum. After we created our accessibility action plan, we did the very thing. We have a survey online that is open to the general public, and it is kind of a yardstick for us to measure how we're doing or what we should be doing or what changes that we can make. So I do believe all of that stuff could be definitely incorporated, and we can get a better picture. Just having that communication with the community, um, especially us in community services, we're not just recreation. Picking up all these items and having that opportunity, uh, you know, give us some. I don't want to say give us some ideas, but it's not the fact of ideas, but let's zero in on some of this stuff, and maybe there's already answers out there. But I do like that, and I think it's super super important because we're here to serve our people. We don't want to be giving other stuff to other organizations and it's leaving town, which I think we're pretty good when we do that stuff. But yeah, I do believe that would work well.
And I agree with that as well. I think that have an open meeting at one point for people who might be interested, um, give a bit of a scope what the meeting would have, and then the people who really are interested and want to contribute will likely show up and put their names forward. Go ahead.
Suppose I'll volunteer to be the council member on the childcare
Good. We already
committee.
had that decided, so.
Yeah, that's
okay.
what I figured, but I thought I should officially say it.
So there, one member of the committee already, Mr. Davis. I think that makes sense. As far as I know, none of us have young children like Johnny does, so we might as well.
I just
Yes.
go back to my comment. I think you got to set up that term of reference first. You're getting into the nitty gritty already through discussion, but I think we're ahead of ourselves a little bit.
It might help, though, to have an open meeting and say, here's a sort of a rough idea of what we're looking at and see if we get any good ideas from that. So I don't know which one you put first.
To know too, terms of references can always be amended and modified, right? So even if we keep a fairly general terms of reference to start with, then as the committee evolves, and of course we can fine tune it.
I could wave in a little bit. I do believe, yes, we could probably bring forward, or I could bring forward a terms of reference. I think following that terms of reference, because then we can still get the meat and potatoes and nitty gritty after the fact. But if we have something, that's what we could start with a say an open meeting, anybody who's interested, this is what we're going to do. And, you know, just having, if people show up to a meeting like that, and I think people will, we just gotta, we have to, I don't want to say attract people, but we need to bring those people together to let them know first and foremost, this is what we're doing, or this is what we want to accomplish, not just even as the committee, but for the whole community. And you get good people or champions and bring those people to the table because they're the ones that will have more intuition or more ideas or more maybe there's stuff out there we don't know anything about, and having those people, which could be Councillor Chung, you know, well, it will be because he's done that already, but that would be a good thing because again, at the end of the day, I think it's just having that open communication. So that would be good for sure.
And inviting people to take part because people want to be included and want to have a say. That's what they like. They can come, they can hear what it is that, and then they make up their minds. But you know what? We often hear from people that, well, you don't ask us and we don't have a chance to give you our input. So we could do that.
And that meeting would have to be in the evening to try to get some of those public to attend. And cookies is always good.
Especially chocolate.
So your worship,
So,
can I
yes,
just,
yeah.
can I just do a recap? So, because we have some discussion with regards to establishing a term of reference that's fairly generic at first to start the discussions. There's another action item to invite, and I think there was two pieces here. One I thought I heard is kind of on the, I think I heard this, like on the provider side to see what they're kind of thinking. And then I think I heard more of a community gathering on ideas. And so I'm just gonna add one piece here. So going out to the community, I think most of the feedback is gonna be, we want more childcare spaces. It's I shouldn't make an assumption here, but I think that's a very simplistic. I don't think people care if it's Sonora Center or the school or whatever. If there's some place that their child can get some additional care, that's what they want. So I'm hearing that potential meeting is with more of the providers. I just want to be clear here as far as our next step. Is our next step to come forward with a generic terms of reference and then go out to the group, or is it to invite a group and then develop terms of reference?
So I apologize if I create some confusion. In my head, we create the terms of reference. We invite stakeholders as committee members, and I was just providing an example of if the committee feels there's value to having a town hall charrette, then that is what the committee can decide. But to keep it nice and finite, step one, terms of reference, but of course keep it fairly general and invite the relevant stakeholders that are listed here, except interior health and post-secondary and secondary schools, until maybe at a time we, the committee would have some autonomy to guide as to, do we have more parents from the public as membership, or like, do we ask interior health to come in to do a presentation or Q&A, things like that. Like, I just keep it a smaller committee for now and build from there.
Can
Maybe
I
just
ask how many do you see being on this committee? Because if you take off some of them, I'm not quite sure. Do you need a committee of 6, 10? What works best to start off? I don't know.
I think, yeah, probably 6, 7. We have a council member, a staff member, and then if there's at least 5 or 6. So that's what I would see. Obviously the daycare, should definitely be involved. And then if there's at least 3 or 4 opportunities for the daycare providers, locally, and then there could be 1 or 2 other people, that are somewhat related, but again, could be identified in the terms of reference. Um, just to reiterate, I think, from what I heard, I know there was a lot of stuff put out there, but thanks, Mr. Riesling, for trying to recap that. I would bring a terms of reference to a meeting, if not in December, definitely in January, for council to, to review, to discuss. Those general terms of reference would be established. Following that, if those terms of reference state that there's going to be 7 people, 5, childcare providers, a staff, a council member, we could get that set up following the meeting, advertise, bring back the council for approval, or we could have a general open meeting for all concerned people, but it might be better to have the committee identified and then have that meeting. That's what I was thinking, just because, to be honest, I'd be just hosting a meeting by myself.
Yeah,
Oh, we'd help. Counselor
yeah, thank you,
Kane.
man. I'd recommend 7 to 9 to start with. Because with the community service, you get 7 to 9 and you hope 5 show up so you can get some good conversation. If you start with 5, you get 3, and I'm not talking staff, I'm talking
Go ahead.
Your Worship, maybe I'll just add one more piece. So maybe our first step is we'll develop a draft terms of reference, come to committee of the whole, talk about it, don't approve it. Invite some of the stakeholders, caregivers, et cetera, to allow them to provide some input on the terms of reference as well. Then we can come back to committee of the whole, provide the feedback of the group, and then we can, with that feedback, council's input, we can approve some type of terms of reference. So it's basically administration going back, take a shot at terms of reference, come back to council saying this is roughly where we're at. So then it's a public document that can be discussed in the community, have an open house / meeting with the service providers that we know of. Maybe there's some others that we don't know of that could, if they get some publicity here, that they could show up, get some feedback on its terms of reference, then come back. Does that sound?
Sounds good to me. Go ahead.
So what would the timeline be like? Because that seems like when we're going to, sounds like we need another 2 committee of the wholes, and then that needs to be recommended to regular open. So you're looking at what, 2-3 months, not including December, because that doesn't exist in terms of scheduling. So we're not going to see the committee formed until probably early spring. Would that be like the timeline-ish?
Is it possible to have a terms of reference for the next committee of the whole? Mr. Davis, I'm not sure what your workload is, but do you have, I think you mentioned that you have some from other communities, which probably would help. Is not trying to put you on the spot, but you know what? I agree. Time, it slips away quickly.
I was hoping somebody else would jump in and help me out. I'm just joking. If not the next meeting, the first meeting in January, I could bring a draft terms of reference. I wouldn't want to bring something just for the sake of bringing it in a hurry or rush and not doing proper, vetting of it type of thing. But even if it's going to be general and we can change it, but if I brought a terms of reference in January to a committee of the whole for discussion, if, for example, that needed to come back to another meeting in January, it could probably be approved. If we're going to host an open meeting, probably end of January, beginning of February, and then identify the committee following that at a council meeting, it's probably going to be March,
I totally understand, but I would appreciate it if it was, if we had the first draft at the beginning of January. That would be my preference. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to see the terms of reference draft done, as soon as possible. And the committee identified before we even entertain an open house or charrette style town hall.
Yep.
That way, at least we have a panel that can guide conversation and create or provide direction. And that way the committee can be established as relatively sooner, and from there then we can look at different initiatives. So I think the prioritization should be that draft terms of reference and then creation of the committee, and then from there, the committee will decide what initiatives to go with.
Yeah, so one of the things we can do to prepare, because I hear there's some urgency, and is, if we plan and we think we can get the terms of reference done by the first meeting in January, what we can do is expedite the planning of the stakeholder consultation to, just telling some of these groups that are out there, get the word out that we're planning to have kind of a review of the terms of reference on January 20th. So it's like we don't wait till January 15th after the first council meeting, then put something out, and then it's delays things. So that's maybe one way of expediting it, getting the word out there now. Yep, January 20th.
Okay, does anybody have anything else? Mr. Davis, do you have any other concerns, questions about this, or are you okay with where we're at?
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. So we do have a recommendation that the committee provide administration with input and direction on the terms of reference for the Child Care Action Plan Committee. I think we have done that. Are we okay with that? Okay. Thank you very much. And we will move on. Yes.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion on that? You can, okay. Are you? You may, yeah.
Adding on to the recommendation that I'm going to be the council member, or do we need that now?
I would suggest that it might be premature to actually
Okay.
name the counselor, because the terms of reference would want to be more generic than that in saying that it's a member of council.
Okay.
And subsequent to that, when it's approved, we can do, and that the counselor
Mhm.
be Counselor Johnny Chong.
Recommendation. Yep. What was said.
Thank you. So we will, we do need a recommendation. We do need a motion to have this recommendation. Are you suggesting that or not?
We can just have a recommendation as it's written in the agenda
Okay,
for the time
thanks.
being. And we would do the other things that I just
Sure.
spoke about when it comes back.
So I assume it's Counselor Chong, Counselor King, all in favor. Thank you. We're going to move on to the second item on the agenda, which is a video surveillance policy. And is that Mrs.
Good
Robinson?
morning. So this morning, at the committee meeting, we are bringing forward the video surveillance policy. Administration has been working on this, for a while now. We have, provided drafts to the union committee for their review and, reference on this. So it has taken some time in that because it has made a couple stops along the way. The reason for this coming forward now at this time is administration has received additional requests for video surveillance in certain areas of the municipality. And as we've recommended other options be tried, it's now moved to the point that we are looking at video surveillance for these areas. And so, as you can see in the policy, any kind of new video surveillance systems that the administration is seeking to add, will have to come to council. So it will be a council decision to approve where these cameras are going, so that y- council will know where they are in case there's any questions. There will also be signage that has to be placed so that people know that there is video surveillance happening. And also with that, privacy impact assessments will be completed where required. So there will be, as it states in the report, note that routine motion activated security cameras do not always require a PIA. It doesn't mean that administration won't complete them, but there's certain areas where they may not be required to be completed. So where they are required, we will complete them, and where they're not, we'll bring forth the information to council. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Go ahead, Councillor
Thank you,
King.
Madam Mayor. Question, if this goes through, how long do you keep the surveillance tape? Does it go disappear every 7 days or 30 days, or you keep it on file forever?
Go
I can help answer that. The systems are a little bit different. Generally, it's based on the capacity of the hard drive that's collecting the information, and it's on a continuous loop. So it's more based on the amount of data that it's collected before it repeats and writes over itself, rather than a specific time frame.
Then do we know how big a capacity we're going to have?
We can certainly select that as we collect new pieces of equipment. Right now, with existing that I would like to specify are not surveillance. They're security cameras that are motion activated. Generally, there's enough capacity to repeat for about a week. Yeah.
And last question, how many cameras are we talking about, roughly speaking?
I believe that council will be seeing a request for 7 new cameras. And part of the reason that we wish to bring this forward now, it's in an effort to ensure that we're in complete compliance with the Privacy Commissioner's recommendations around surveillance of any area that could be public. What we've had in the past is more like security cameras that are motion activated. Some of them, as Ms. Robinson was saying, may not require any additional paperwork or a PIA being done, because it's just a motion activated camera on a shed or something like that. But some of the cameras that we're going to be looking at as we go forward will be, say, in Gyro Park. They will be picking up a wider span of information and possibly impacting the people who visit the park. So we want to make sure that we take the highest level of assessment on that and confer with the Privacy Commissioner's office before putting those cameras in place.
I just had a question, on the policy manual, the suggested one that's here, 7.2 says recorded video data will generally be retained for up to 4 weeks. I'm just wondering, might there ever be a time when bylaw or the police wish to have a look at that? And is it destroyed after 4 weeks? Is it, so it's not available? Is that what that means? And is that the right way to go ahead?
Yeah, I think that's in anticipation of the new equipment that's going to be coming that fits this policy better than, like I said, a motion activated security camera. They would have a larger hard drive and could possibly retain the information for a longer period of time. As I said, it writes over itself. So there would be a limited time in which, say, police could come and ask for that. And I want to say we wouldn't necessarily make that available to anybody that asked. If it was obviously a police investigation, possibly, but if it was for somebody's interest, no.
Oh, I totally get that. I just was thinking the courts or the police might ask for that.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
This is a follow-up, knowing how, with procedure, when in terms of judicial system, 4 weeks may not be sufficient. And it would be a shame if there is evidence that could absolve someone or, really assist with an RCMP investigation, and then it's written over. My question would be, is there considerations for cloud-based storage that do comply with FIPA? And also, is there are there considerations for like increasing like solid state hard drive capacity so that we can store more of that footage? Maybe instead of 4 weeks, like up to 6 months. It's difficult because it depends on what the costing is, right? Because everything comes down to the budget. And if we're going to put a system in place to ensure the safety and security of our community, I'd like it to be actually usable in the sense of having that footage available.
Well,
And-
you've touched on an important point, and that is why are the cameras going there? And I would say the number one reason that I'm aware of anyway is for the protection of town assets, as opposed to the protection of our residents. And so that would probably be a discussion that I have to have with the commissioner's office. And as an extension of that, depending on how they feel about it, that would probably inform that decision about how long we keep things for. I would say in general, the commissioner's office doesn't favor keeping information like that for a longer period of time. And there are going to have to be very strict controls on who has access to that information. And that includes where it's stored. If it would have to be a completely secure cloud-based app that we would use that isn't accessible by anybody else.
Might it be a good idea to contact the RCMP, or would they have any input on this or not? I'm not sure whether that's in the scope.
I have, and that in the past, I should say, I have had that discussion before I talked to the commissioner's office. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think this is generic, because it's really, I'll call it a crime for another term. If nothing's happening, it gets erased every 2 to 4 weeks. But if there's actual something happen, I would think that would be pulled sidebar from getting erased and kind of stored separately. So
Well,
it doesn't get erased, it's stored separate.
Yeah. Definitely, you're
Yeah.
correct. If there had been any kind of an incident, we would take that snap and secure it for the police.
Thank you, Bishop. Just add some further comment. Unfortunately, as someone who has to review a fair bit of security footage quite often, for example, one I'm working on right now at the RCMP is we're looking about 3.5 weeks post incident that we're going back on something. So again, it's great when you can capture knowing of an incident. Obviously, if there's been a crime committed, usually if it's not 24, 48 hours, usually within a week, being aware that something has taken place and being able to separate that footage so that it is there and is isolated from the rest of the incident. But somewhere around that 30 days term, I think would be appropriate based on most cases. At least you're aware of something taking place. It gives you that time to do so, and it gives the RCMP or Crown at least some feedback and some time for them to come back if there's any additional information that they need that may be missed. But I would support this policy.
With that said, I recommend option 1.
Oh, first and second. Yeah, I think that was what he just said. So we'll second the motion. Is there anyone else that has anything to bring up? All right, well, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you very much. And I'm
Terminate.
thinking. And is there a seconder to terminate? Thank you, Councillor Poderica. All in favor?